So we are really delighted to have Chris and Tristan Palmer joining us today for our first Back on Track podcast. It's been a long time coming, but we're really happy to be chatting to you this afternoon, lads. So just to give a brief introduction, luxury coffee machine company based down in Milton Keynes. You've worked within various different companies operating within the motorsport industry, fueling the World Superbike and BSB paddock. And of course, starting the journey out many years ago with Honda. So, Chris, Tristan, welcome. Going to give a little background, if possible, on where you all started out.
Well, thank you for having us. I'll leave it to you to start it off. I won't remember.
Well, just so you can wriggle out a bit something.
Yeah, I can just sit here quietly.
It's like we're playing doubles here.
Yeah.
I'll just sit and look pretty for a while.
Oh, okay. This is what's happening, see. All gets left either gets left to me whilst he goes off driving Ferraris and flying helicopters, and I'm having to do stuff. So, and again, you'll have to stop me because I'll talk for England. I'll drag on for ages, and I'll then go and say something stupid. So there should be loads of them where you can cut bits out and bleep things because I'm bound to say the wrong thing, or I don't know.
Don't worry.
I don't understand what you're allowed to say anymore, what's PC, what's not. So I apologise.
We don't want it to be PC, though. That's what makes it a podcast.
There is no PC here, mate. Trust me.
That's good. So I might not offend too many people. So, yes, we started a coffee company as a domestic coffee company. And James will remember this. Back in the Dura days, you remember the little coffee machines. And it was really, the idea was if someone phoned up for what's the best coffee machine you can buy for home, that was the level we were aiming at. And we started from the house. We'd done a deal with the post lady and we had an old like woodshed and where you put all the coal, and we put a door on it and we put a letterbox. We called it Unit 1, so it sounded like official. Done a deal with the post lady that if she got any post, that was us. Called it Express House, Unit 1, Park Road, and set the company up. It was literally us working from home. We knew nothing. I'm not sure I know it anymore now, but we generally knew nothing about coffee machines. So when the website launched, we didn't even have a phone number. Because if someone phoned me and said, what does this machine do? It'd be, fact if I know. But by the fact they used to email or do that live chat, I had enough time to Google what it did. So I could tell. And very quickly we learned. And one of the things we did is we used to buy a machine and have it in the kitchen. So I could say to people, look, this is what the spec says it does, but this is what it does in the real world as well. So very quickly we started, and by the end of the third year, we were the third biggest retailer in the UK of that style, that market. There was a few competitors, and then by the second year we were number one, and then we decided we needed an office and stuff like that. And I won't bore everyone to tears with it all, but what happened was this was just before the big recession. You remember, you had a credit crunch and then it went to recession. And we were like this particular brand, which was Dura. They flew us out to Switzerland. We trained out there. We did all sorts, and we could do no wrong. We were their biggest retailer. They loved us. But unbeknown to us, as the credit crunch was looming, they were setting up their own website and structure to sell direct and cut out the middleman. And literally, we found out on a Friday afternoon, and they more or less shut our business overnight because they changed. Obviously, you get a trade discount, and we were up to about 47% because of the amount we bought, and they literally changed it overnight to 8%. Wow. We already gave a 5% discount to new customers, and they shut down our company overnight. And I don't get down very often, but I literally remember locking the door that night thinking they've just closed us because we were probably 80% selling their brand, and we built their brand on back then, the social media that was there and everything else. Yeah. So anyway, after a weekend of feeling sorry for myself, I was like, yeah, fuck this. No one's going to beat me. And we went commercial. And that's really where a lot of that started. We then we were doing stuff for a Porsche Carrera Cup team. And funnily enough, this is back in 2008. And where the Fueled By came from is they, at the end of the year, like they do, they'd sent us a picture and they wrote on it, Fueled by Express Coffee. And this was in 2008. It's like, oh, that's I quite like that.
That's good.
It was a guy called Simon Dolan. He's still around. Jota Porsche with the company. So we travelled around back then in the sort of, I think it was 2007, 2008, in the touring car paddock with them. But I'm very much a down to earth person, and I found it very hard to relate to the car people because to me, you know, they're lovely people, but you know, quite often they had a rich mummy and daddy that put them through the racing, and I, you know, I'm not knocking them; they're great people, but I found it hard to relate to. You know, I was very much just a grafter, and I literally came home and I said, I want a bike team. And back then, I found the Superbike website. I went on and I emailed a load of, back then you could get all their details, and I emailed all these teams. And again, forgetting I was offering something free of charge, I was fucking hounded, like literally inundated with, because I didn't know what I was doing. This was Hydrex Honda, Sean Muir, he came through, and a few others. And anyway, the one that kept bugging me, and we had a young apprentice called Steph at the time, she kept giving me a scrap of paper. This bloke Harvey keeps calling, something to do with some email you sent out. So I called this Harvey bloke and didn't have a clue who he was, and arranged to go and meet him up at Louth. It was a Cadwell Park event. Went up there, still had no idea how it all worked. And he met me at Louth. I think it was maybe a Friday, and we drove up to Cadwell. We drove in, and he was saying to the security, he's with me, and I just drove in. Anyway, took us all the way down the bottom, and I remember sitting there over by that little funny house, that little disused house at the end of the paddock or whatever, the pits, I suppose they call it. And back then, there was shaky there. It was Leon and Carl Crutchlow were the two riders. And he kept coming up and said, sorry, Chris, like, I will get a chance. I've just got, I was like, mate, I could sit here all day. And I am in my element. Were you at Airwaves then, or what were you then?
No, 2008, I would have been at Hydrex then with Sean.
So you were Hydrex under. So I was in my element. I said, look, mate, get me a chair and I could sit here all day. There was just do what you got to do. So anyway, so that was the starting of it, and we'd done a deal with Harv, and again, I didn't understand the whole Honda thing. I didn't, and I think it's still the case now that they're the only official that they're employed by Honda, whereas all the other teams are appointed, aren't they? If I'm correct in thinking the way it works. So we done a deal with Harv, and he became a very close friend. His boy Teed ended up working for me and babysitting the kids and stuff like that. So we very much become part of the Honda family. And that was our intro into BSB, and yes, we did a bit for him, and then I think a couple of years later, he'd always, you know, such a lovely guy. He'd message me, Chris, Honda UK got this idea, he said, about having a coffee machine at the NEC, and we think we might do a few coffees. And yeah, no problem, mate. I'll sort it out. You leave it to me. I'll get it sorted. And we took some machines up there for the NEC, and they got this idea of doing this little cafe and bringing people onto the stand and data capture. And I was like, look, whatever you need, I'll do it. Didn't have a clue what I was doing. I just went up there. But anyway, we gave him a load of coffee. And by the Sunday, this is back in the 10-day show. It started on a Thursday. I think we had a meeting.
Yeah, it used to be a lot longer, yeah.
Yeah. By the Sunday, he's at coffee. So I've gone up there on the Monday. I always remember, it's always snowing. It's always shitty weather for the NEC. Gone up there, freezing cold, gone up there with coffee. Tristan had bunked off school. So Tristan was in a little express coffee top. And you would have been about nine years old. Tristan was wiping. When I got there, the queue was off the stand. It was Ian at Athlone running the stand for Harv. We just provided everything. It's like, mate, I can't leave you like this. So I just said, look, I'll just crack on. I'll help you. Tristan was wiping tables. I don't forget that. And just collecting cups and emptying the bins and everything else. And unbeknown to me, I'm meeting all these sort of top flyers in Honda. And I'm just doing what I do. I'm just chatting to people, and I'm trying to help because they need help. So we did that, and it was a great success. I think they won stand of the show, and we got copied on some email from Honda that, you know, thanked us. We did 17,000 cups in 10 days. I was
about to ask how many we did.
Mate,
That's all
honestly,
we do at the show. We drink coffee.
Jesus.
Mate, I honestly, the Paul machines were absolutely knackered,
Wow.
but we did it, and then literally. Funny enough, I chat to this guy quite a lot on LinkedIn, and he's in the same sort of areas. He was at that show that you guys were at, a guy called Nick Campolucci. I started getting all these phone calls and emails coming through from Honda UK about a project. They wanted to look at the dealerships for what was on offer, you know, everything, and would we help them with the hot drink side. And I was getting all these people coming through. Nick Campolucci was one who went on to bigger and better things, and a guy called Mick Doyle, I think now heads up bikes now, and they were all coming through, and I was having to keep going back and half. So, bloody hell, who are all these people? Apparently, they spoke to at the NEC. And anyway, so we helped them, and we worked with Honda for the best part of 9-10 months at a dealership. We put different coffee machines in. Once they chose the coffee machine, the different coffees, the cups, absolutely everything. Roasted them their own blend. And And then after that, they then did a brochure that went out to all dealerships to say, look, this is the machine we've chosen, this is the research we've done, and this is our appointed company that we would recommend. They couldn't force them, but recommend that you now use. And that really started into our focus into dealerships. We never intended to go that way. We were just grafting and doing what we do and trying to help. So that's kind of where, from Superbikes, and we're still with Harv now, so we still look after Harv, and obviously we've got a lot of other teams that we look after. But that's really where it sort of took us and helped mould our business in through just going out and doing what we do, and that's us.
That's crazy, isn't it? How fast it sort of escalated from a little shed with a letterbox to that.
Yeah, it's still one of those where you have days where you drive out thinking if you feel like a millionaire, and then you have days where you feel like go and think, oh, I don't think I've got fuel for the car. But so it's very much because certainly during the COVID periods and even now, I think there's still a lack of confidence out there. But it's certainly because we love what we do and the experience it's given us. And to be fair, the people, James included, and yourself, but the people we've met through our business, I've got to say, has been phenomenal. It's McGuinness kindly sorted us out, took us and arranged for us to go to the TT in 2014, which really changed our lives, because it was that thing on the bucket list of always wanted to go to the TT, and then it happened. And I was chatting to Becky online the other day. I said again to him, I said, I don't think you two realise how much you changed our lives. You come through to us thanking us for looking after you for coffee and stuff. It's like you've done far more for us than we've ever done for you, just by that one little thing that means nothing to you, because it's just a flip and I'll sort it all out for you. And so it's I'm amazed by the people we've met over the years, and that's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah,
I think, was it 2009 you said that you guys linked up?
Yeah, we got together in 2009, didn't we? Just shortly after that. I didn't know the whole story of how you started though with Honda, so that was new to me.
Well, no, it's garage that I was sat on.
Yes. So obviously I used to drag Tristan. So obviously I've got Tristan Owen. So Owen runs a building construction company. You might burst through the door in a minute, soaking wet. He's running two or three of his sites today. So Owen's now 22, Tristan's 23. Tristan would be dragged around with me mainly, just like I said, at the NEC, helping wipe the tables, carry the coffee, and because it was pretty much back in the day, we would turn up and you guys know what it's like. So we'd turn up at BSB. We were with Harv. We tied in with yourself, and then we helped Airwaves, and we had back then, because you had a sort of 2-year deal with them, and we did a 2-year deal with them as well. Yeah. And obviously that sort of, they stopped racing, but we did a deal. So we had Honda with Harv, and then we had the Airwaves hospitality units that we did, and that's really where we were in BSB. And Tristan would be in there with me helping out. But then we sort of we sort of went from there, didn't we, to so you sort of started. Yes, so Tristan's been around the paddocks and grown up within the paddocks doing that side. Yeah.
It's kind of like if you've ever seen Austin Powers with Dr. Evil and Mini-Me.
It was Mini-Me. He was so loyal as well. He always had his little Express Coffee T-shirt on, I remember.
Yeah, I've still got the picture. So I remember bringing your machine. It was a Dura Z5, and I remember bringing it over to your RV. It was parked at Silverstone as it is at the front, all there. So I brought it over. I got a picture of Tristan. I got my camera taking skills as good as my technical skills. I've got a picture. You can hardly see you, but you've got your boy band look with your little curtains and the rest of it.
Oh God, yeah.
And Tristan's in there with his HM plant jacket on, and we were just setting your machine up for you. It's definitely. I definitely think it's come a long way. That's us.
It's an amazing story. The one thing you were saying before about when you said McGuinness, like the little thing he's done to help you out, but on the flip side of that, mate, on a personal note, you've helped so many riders out in the paddock. What was it that kind of got you thinking, right, well, me personally, I mean, you sponsored me for like best part of 12 years, and that massive deal for me, just even being part of your whole Express Coffee family. And it wasn't just a sponsorship deal, you've helped me out in so many other personal ways as well, even just chatting on the phone or helping out with bloody security cameras at my house, when I was away. for like 3 months, and you and the boys went up and fitted
all your heat was off. I remember that. Your heat was off because you were away, and we were sat there.
That was a good day because I think I got the day of score, and I just watched Star Wars.
And we were sat there. We took some blankets, so we could keep an eye on the guys doing all the cameras and keep an eye back to you. We were bloody freezing that day.
Yeah, the heat wasn't off. It was broken. So
I know.
I was away, so I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, gosh, I remember that.
About that, yeah.
Do you know what? I think I've always been brought up, if you can help someone, it's wrong of you not to. So if it's in my power to help someone, I should do it, whether I know them or don't know them. I think that's why we try and do so much for the homeless and stuff like that. It's because you're trying to make a difference. And I think, and with riders, I mean, I've got to say, I know sometimes some people might have other opinions, because I know it can get very political. But when I look at the British Superbike paddock, I think it's run phenomenally well, and it's done amazing for us. So you've always got frustration that you've got the wrong pass, and I've parked in the wrong spot, stuff like that. But generally, what an amazing event it is. It's allowed us to build our brand massively, and then our tiny little part within it. If we can help someone, we try to. And I always said to people, we've never had the deepest of pockets when it comes as a sponsor. We're not a sponsor that can turn up and chuck a load of money at it, but we try to do stuff where you could do things, as you say, to make a bit of a difference and be there and perhaps give that side. So it's and I'll tell you where that starts. Funny enough, so we start obviously with yourself, and I always remember because obviously Tracy, my wife, runs the financial side, and I am always getting it in the ear of why am I spending money on this? Why have I done this? And I'm constantly have to justify everything, which helps keep our feet on the ground. I always remember we'd sponsored yourself, and I sort of said, I got this deal with James. It's a 2-year deal. He's with Airwaves. It's all looking good. And obviously Airwaves went sort of stopped racing. So I'm getting, and obviously because we were such a small company back then, and not that we're that big now, but Tracy, you've given him like £2.5 coffee machine, and what's he doing? Well, what's going on? And I always remember, I think that where'd you go after Airwaves?
So the following year, I finished second in the championship that year.
Yeah, because it was a fantastic year on Airwaves.
It was amazing, yeah. Leon Camille won it, teammate. So as a team, we won the Constructors' Championship as well. So we were first and second. And I remember the top 6 riders. So Leon Camille, and then the other I was second, and then the other 4 behind me, which would have been, I think, Shaky, Tom Syke, Crutchlow. I can't remember the last one. Who would it have been? Mine's gone blank. Anyway, so those 5 riders all went off to World Superbikes. Camille got a factory Aprilia ride. Oh, Shaky, of course. Shaky was off to World Superbike. They all got a ride, and myself and Leon. I don't think Leon Camille. I don't think he stuck to what he was supposed to do, because he ended up getting a ride off the back of it. But we weren't allowed to say anything, so Airwaves pulled out. I had a contract. If I finished top 3 in the championship, contract was renewed for the following year. So we were supposed to have a 2-year deal like yourself. So 2010, I should have been riding for them. The wage was all set. And then at the end of the year, they were like, right, we're going to cut your wages by 45% from this year. So my wages were literally cut in half from that year. All the bonuses were taken away, and we'd had 14 podiums, 4 wins. So I lost a hell of a lot of money that year. Yeah. And I went back to Texas, where I spent the winter normally for the 3 months, literally every day on the phone, emailing people. Once I could talk about it, because when we went to the NEC, obviously the season finished in October. NEC starts in November. We weren't allowed to say anything about not riding for GSE until after November. We had to sign an agreement. Yeah. So when anyone asked, I was like, yeah, I'm riding next year for GSE, when I wasn't. But I wasn't allowed to say anything. So all the teams were like, oh, we'd have been interested in talking to you. So they could go off and sign the riders. And by the time I could actually talk, all the rides had gone. Yeah. So I'm in Texas, literally on the phone, on emails every day, trying to find something. And luckily, I'll cut this really short because I don't want to bore you with it, but luckily, Stuart Higgs had done a deal with Sean Muir, because he only had 1 rider, which was Stuart Easton, and he needed 2 riders on the grid. So Stuart Higgs called up and said, look, we've got a ride for you here. This is in March. So just before the season started, I'm panicking at this point, which is why I ran the number 2 that year, because we finished second. So Easton was number 3, I was number 2. And then, so literally Sean Muir and Stuart threw me a lifeline. And I went back to Sean's team, which I was in 2008. Went back to his team in 2010, so... Was that Honda, Swan Honda, was it? That would have been the Swan Honda, yeah. And that should have been a good year. We started off the first round. Me and Tommy Hill were sort of the main, sort of looked like we were going to be battling out for the rest of the year. But the first round at Brands, I think I finished third in the first race. So Sean was happy with that. Then I won the second race, so he was absolutely peaking. Went to Thruxton, round 2. Quickest.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, quickest on the Friday, both sessions. Quickest on Saturday morning. Somebody dumped oil, I think it was Kianari out the back, and crashed on the oil. There was no red flag. Crashed on the oil, hit a barrier, snapped my femur.
I remember that. Cause
That was kind of the end of the year.
Because when you that was the round where we then got involved with Ola and Sean. So
yeah.
I remember that their coffee machines had gone bang. You'd come through to us, or you'd messaged, obviously probably before you'd had your accident, and Ola sent someone in, and we sent them down a coffee machine just to, and I just to get you out the shit for the weekend, and we'd discuss it afterwards. You know, just get that sorted, and we'd deal with it afterwards. Yeah, so I remember that. So that was it, because that was the Swan Honda. And then the following year, didn't you do the World 600? Was that when you went? Yeah,
I kind of fell out with the championship because I spent like an intense 3 weeks after that crash in the Isle of Man in the hyperbaric chamber, getting back to fitness basically. So I only missed the one round, and I came back to Cadwell. I was told that if I'd had a letter from the doctor saying I could ride. Yeah. And then I got there, and there was a bit of conflict of interest between the head of the medical staff and Higgsy. Higgsy wanted to let me out on track.
Yeah.
The medical staff wouldn't let me out on track until they could see I was fit enough to ride. But of course, I had to go on track allow them to see if I was fit enough. It was like, well, hang on, one of you has to give here, because you have to see me on track first to see if I'm fit enough to ride. But you're not allowing me until, So anyway, I kind of fell out with it then, because I'd worked so hard and spent thousands of pounds in, rehab and trying to get back fit enough to race at that round. And I kind of fell out with the championship a little bit that year. So, yeah, I mean, we ended up winning a race and getting on the podium towards the end of the year, and then got offered to go ride in World Supersport. But that's
it. And I used to get those two confused. Which one? Where it was the Swan, and then because I remember then you went well. So what happened was, the reason I'm sort of saying this is because what happened was obviously we'd sponsored you, and the first year you then had an injury and stuff like that. So I've got Tracy Winship. I said, "Who is this guy? He don't seem to ever be on track." So no, he don't understand. He's had a, and I would constantly explain myself to her.
Shit, sorry, mate.
It's all right. It's all right. You're good now, mate. You're good now.
You're off the hook.
You got a loyalty award now. You've been with us long enough. You're like family. So
Brilliant.
What happened was you came in before going MotoGP, and I always remember you came in. And me being me, I'm just happy, like I said to you, and I don't know if I've probably said this to you before. My attitude was, you could be riding a push bike for all I care. We're your sponsor. It's thick and thin. Don't matter. It's like a marriage, We don't just turn up because you're on the podium. We're there through it all. And then when it goes good, great. And then when it goes bad, we stick together. And you come in before the season started to tell me about this. Was it called ART or the
CRT?
CRT, right?
Yeah.
And you came in to explain what you were doing. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I didn't understand none of it as usual. I was like, yeah, whatever. We just serviced all your machine up ready for you, gave you a few bits and pieces, and off you went. And I always remember, and I think it probably wasn't the first MotoGP round, but you had said to me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this visor sticker for you. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I don't understand none of it. It all sounds good to me. Crack on. And we were at Brands Hatch, and what we used to do before we had the racetrack is we used to stay with Honda. So we'd go in with Honda, we'd stay in the hotel, as part of the Honda team. And what the advantage was, we could then, if I don't want to be at the track all day, I could catch up with Harv or whatever else. And me and Harv used to train together. I could never keep up with him, Even after his cancer battle, I still can't keep up with him on a rower. So we trained together of an evening, and we were in what I call the Honda hotel. I think it was Maidstone or whatever, Maidstone or whatever. And we were in there, and MotoGP was obviously on, and we were in the bar area. And suddenly someone went, "Chris, look!" And they looked over the big TV on the wall, and he just went, "Express Coffee," because they had the cameras on the front of the bike. And
yeah,
they
like, don't bother.
Where did that come from? And I always say to people, not only was James our first, BSB fueled by rider, but the whole fueled by visor stick, everything else started with James' idea. It wasn't my idea. It was, James saying, "Oh yeah, you can do all this," and I always remember that I then looked at BSB, and not many riders in BSB rode with visor stickers back then. It was quite rare. I can't even think of the ones that did. I think Hickey might have, who was one of the early ones, but a lot of them didn't ride with visor stickers. I remember so much so that I went to Harv to say to him, is it not allowed? Is it something that, you're not allowed to ride? Is it something to do with vision? I don't know. And Harv then explained how it works. You got your 4 areas on your levers, and your helmet, you do what you like. And we then trialled the idea back then with Michael Laverty and Joe Halloran. I think Joe was on the 600 Super Sport and Michael was obviously full BSB. And we started running visor stickers. And back then it was, James will remember, it was all the full www.
Oh, yeah, it
was like all long-winded. And so, you know, James started that entire thing for us. Yeah, so that's really where we suddenly sort of turned up, as it were. You know, we've been sort of floating around doing bits and pieces. People sort of knew we were, but I think from that moment we did that, and obviously we revised it to Express Coffee, and then the Fueled By came in more, that we ran with that, and that's where a lot of it started. But it all started with James. So then I could finally go back to the wife and say, "Look, this is how it started. Back up."
It's worked. I remember when you were on about the whole vision thing, then I remember we went through a few different people making the stickers. I think Tommy Hill ended up doing it in the end.
Yeah, Tommy does all of our stuff now.
Different sizes, different colours. It was white and a black background, black and a clear background, and then we came.
That's it, because we had it on a strip at one stage.
That's right.
Because the individual letters would fall off after a while, so it'd go like Express Offie or whatever.
But the whole size thing, I remember one particular one that I thought, right, I'm going to make it massive now just to make a big deal out of it so you can see it. Because I was expecting to get on the podium. Mate, I couldn't fucking see a thing. When I was looking down, all I could just see was just this black thing here. And I was like, just trying to pick it up as I was riding, but obviously with your gloves on, you couldn't do it. So we had a few failures, but I think we got there in the end. Yeah.
And again, as James said, so we started off. Obviously, we were with you from day one. We then, and again, I'm probably going to miss out, guys, but we then with Michael and Jay, and we did that. And then we had Josh Waters. So when you went with Milwaukee, I used to love dealing with Josh Waters. I always went with Josh Waters, and you'll remember this. Such a lovable lad.
Oh yeah.
And I know he struggled on a lot of the British tracks, but when it was wet, he was up there. And I always remember he won. It might have been Browns. I think he won 2 races that year in the wet, but he won a race. And he messaged me, said, "Chris, I'm so sorry. I got my wet visor on. It didn't have Express." And I'm like, "Mate, I couldn't fucking care. To see you up on the podium, I'm happy. Just to see that and see that you're happy again." So yeah, but yeah, so that really started the whole Fueled By, and then you know, the vans and it all. Yeah, so really that was I suppose really quite a turning point with that. And then obviously it was great for us when you then came back into the BSB, because that was on Milwaukee, wasn't it, if I remember correctly? When
it was, yeah.
Yeah, and I always remember I talked about Dale at Milwaukee, and again I don't want to get anyone in trouble and say too much, but Dale and Sean, 2 guys I love dealing with, because they're very much, you know, Dale especially, fair enough, it'd just be like, "This is what I want to do. Can we do this?" And it'd just be very much just I'm not into contracts and stuff. It'd just be, "Yeah, can we do that?" And again, James, you messaged me before the season started to say, "This guy Dale, this is our new sponsor, Milwaukee." I was like, "The fuck's Milwaukee? You know, I'm not a tall person. I know nothing about them. He needs a coffee machine for their new offices." And I remember he sent me his number. I phoned Dale, told Dale what I thought he wanted. He went, "Yeah, sounds good." I was like, I was halfway through my pitch. I was like,
I remember.
"Yeah, that sounds good." "Well, yeah, just get me an invoice over." I was just like, "This guy's just wasting me time." Just so like, "Yeah, whatever. Just get me an invoice over. Get that." So that started the relationship with Dale, and then obviously with the Milwaukee, with the Milwaukee team, and I think later on we kicked out a lot of their tool stores for Dale. So you know, Milwaukee was one of our biggest customers while they were going through that phase.
I remember seeing it on your whiteboard when I came in the office once, and you had like the numbers of who
biggest
supplied the more stuff to. Milwaukee was there at the top.
They were at one stage when we were doing that for them. It was a thing they were doing. Again, a bit like the Honda Cafe was there. I think it was like their 20 best tool stores. The idea was we did Milwaukee coffee machines. So when someone came in, they were sort of being drawn to the Milwaukee end of the tool store, not the DeWalt end. I think that was the gist of it. Yeah. And that's what we did. And they had a little screen on it, and you could enter competitions. Again, it was basically like the Honda Cafe was. It was the same thing to get data capture. And Dale, though he's a bloody bugger to get hold of when you want it, but he's so. I tell you this, is when we won the championship with Josh. I've got Josh Brooks, sorry. Yeah. I always remember this. Dale was pissed because we won the championship, and he said to me, "Remind me, you're going to the Bahamas next April, you know, in April coming." And I was like, "Yeah, do you know that?" He said, "Yeah, I know. You mentioned it." He said, "Remind me. Call me Monday. I'm too pissed to do it." He said, "Remind me Monday when all this has died down. I know the main guys over there, and we get you upgraded.
Oh,
And
wow.
bloody hell, he did. So we got married out there, and we go back every 5 years normally for our anniversary. And Dal had organised, and I got to say, you know, he knew one of the head butlers, absolutely looked after us, honestly. So I've got a lot of time. And again, it goes back to, these are people we've met over the years that have just, you know, helped us sometimes far more than we've helped them. So, you know, Dale and Sean, we're still with Sean, obviously, in World Superbikes. And, you know, Sean's another one. I always admired Sean because, as you mentioned just then with the Swan Days, every year there'd be some, not every year, but quite often there'd be some, oh, he's only got one rider. Next year he's only got one rider. And I know Higgsy gets involved, and you know, he obviously does so much for the sport. But suddenly, Sean will be there. Got 2 rider team. We got this new sponsor guy. I was always told. I mean, Sean always said that, you know, Higgsy helps so much. He's very good at putting people together, and it's all to make the championship and it work. And I think it's brilliant. So yeah, I still love dealing with Sean. You know, he keeps threatening to fly in here at some stage, but he'll turn up. And yeah, so
It's so busy, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, it's just you know, we've had so many riders over the years, and like I said, I would say pretty much all of them. It's yeah, we had Tommy Bridewell for a while, and you know, and it's Tommy. I know he's a bit. I always say Tommy's a bit of a Marmite, really, because I generally liked him. I knew he could be. I knew he could say the wrong thing at the wrong time, but I did warm to him, his family and Stacey and stuff like that. And whenever there'd been a bit of an issue at a crash, I always messaged him to say they're all right. And though I know, you know, people they're probably divided on this, seeing him win the championship and then doing the thing that he did on Ollie's grave, I just thought that really sort of, to me, just shows what he's all about deep down. You know, he's such a good guy. So yeah, Tommy, Josh Waters, obviously. McGuinness, Conor Cummins, obviously, is a really close friend of ours. Obviously, we spent a lot of time there.
Conor started his own coffee business up for you guys as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So again, McGuinness. I mean, I knew Conor obviously from like you do, but I think John sort of said to Conor, you know, poor old Conor, all he wanted to do was start a little coffee van out in, you know, do events, and then got stuck talking to me. I was like, no, mate, what we need to do. So we helped Conor set up the whole Coffee Man business, and again, it's such a pleasure to deal with. And yeah, originally he wanted to just do events, and I sort of said, yeah, but there's only so many events you can do. You're swapping your time for money here, aren't you? Because you've got a race. And I said, if you can sell the coffee machines, people are selling the coffee for you. You know, that's the way forward. And yeah, I mean, as I said, I speak to him most weeks, or certainly every other week. But he was funny in the early days because. And I always remember this. He phoned me once. I was working late at night, and he phoned me up, and we'd had a conversation. I remember him saying, and I've said this to him before. He said, "Oh, what you do is so exciting." And I said to him, "You take a fucking piss. You ride down the roads at 200 miles an hour, and you're telling me what I do is exciting." Yeah. So we've helped on Conor, but you know, it's his own business, and we helped him sort out the cafe in Ramsey. Because we were over there, so what we try and do when we have more time is we'd go over there probably a couple of times a year, spend some time with Conor and help him get the business going and various different things with the business. And Tristan had trained the staff and get involved with the engineers. But this particular time we'd gone over, and as you know, with the Isle of Man in particular, we'd gone over there for, I think, like 2 days, haven't we, one night, with 2 pairs of pants between us, staying with Conor. This is before they had the girls. And as usual, flights fucking cancelled because there's wind or something, whatever it is out there
normally.
And he's just doing this cafe, and he's backwards and forwards with the I'm sure I'm all right to say this, with the leasing guy, the owner. And Conor, bless him, he's such a lovely fella. He's so I got so much time for him, and he was like, oh well, you know, I don't want to. We're waiting for the change of usage through the planning to change it, because like an optician's to a cafe and everything. And I was like, right, okay, well, you've got us here. We're stuck here, living with you. We might as well get cracking. Yeah, well, what if we get knocked back? And I said, text the bloke, see if he's bothered. And the bloke came back and said, look, rip it all out. It's got to come out anyway. And he went, oh, I don't know whether to do it or not. And, you know, what if? I said, look, for a fucking rider that rides round like you do,
yeah,
you're a bit of a wuss, aren't you? And again, because I do wind him up a bit. And I sent him up the road to go get some tools. And we got a film of Tristan just running through the walls because they were like prefab plasterboard.
Oh, shit.
And by the time he got back, I said, we're too late now, mate.
Oh, my God.
Oh, gee.
There was just plaster everywhere. But off the back of that, we met their chief minister off the back of that. Because it then turned out that the cottage we've been renting for the last few years was Howard Quayle's. And Conor, bless him, was having a lot of problems out there because the sort of coffee company on the island were trying to shut him down as soon as they found out he was trying to set up. And they were going to all the suppliers saying don't deal with him, which was just really wrong. Anyway, I messaged the Quayles, and I just messaged them, I'm like, messaged them, said, look, you lot are involved with some sort of government stuff because I see your Facebook, you've got big hats on, and you know, could you help Conor? We need to try and give him a bit of a push with credibility on the island. And they said, yeah, look, love to, anything we can do to help. So I went to Conor and went, Conor, I've got this lot on board, the Quayles, and he just came back with this, the Quayles, all these exclamation marks. He said they're like, you know, one of the ancient families of the island. Which Quayle? And I just went through and said, some bloke called Howard.
Oh, wow.
He said, that's the chief minister. He said, the equivalent of your prime minister. Are you sure? And I was like, yeah. I had the bloke stood behind Conor's cafe when he opened, serving coffee. He's such a lovely fella. Did so much for the island. So again, the people we've met is what's made it for us. So
Yeah.
I could waffle on all day, but yeah.
That's cool, mate.
As you say, though, it's not, you know, without the hard work that he's put in behind the scenes. You know, I think anyone that's friends with both of you on Facebook will see that you're up at 4 o'clock most mornings.
Yeah, dude, there's times where I've got up at 3 in the morning to go for a pee, and it's like, yeah, flick through my phone, whatever, just because I'm bored.
Off to the gym.
Chris Palmer's just done a 6-mile walk. Like, you know, what are you doing? It's 3 in the morning. That's like it seems like a normal average day for the three of you, really. I mean, yourself, Tristan, and Owen, if he comes back from work. What is it that just keeps you